Lesson 16, I will understand and solve two-digit dividend division problems with the remainder in the ones place by using number disc. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our problem set. Go ahead and write your name, and then let's take a look at the directions. The directions say, show the division using disc. Relate your work on the place value chart to long division. Check your quotient and remainder by using multiplication and addition. So let's take a look at our division problem. It says that we have 7, and these are ones, divided by 2. So whenever I take something and I divide it by 2, that means that I'm going to put it into two equal groups. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show 7 ones. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'm going to divide that into two equal groups. I'm going to go ahead and draw two lines so that I have a group here and a group here. Now I'm going to distribute these ones just like if I were distributing cards to a friend. I said, you get a card, I get a card. So as I distribute them, I'm going to mark them out. Now you didn't have to do that on Zern because Zern kind of showed you which ones you had used. So we're going to use this strategy just to tell us which ones that we have already used. So you can see what happened. When I distributed, I ended up with unequal groups. So what happens is I cannot put this 1 in this group because if I do, I'm not going to have equal groups. So this one group, this 1 is going to be left over or is going to be our remainder. So we had 7 ones and we divided them into two groups. So how much was in each group? This is a group, so we ended up with a group of 3. So that means that we have 3 in each group. Now I distributed 3 twice, so 3 times 2 is 6. When I subtracted, I'm left with 1. This tells me that I had a remainder of 1. I like to circle that so that it stands out. So my answer would be 3, remainder 1. So what was my quotient? Well, a quotient is the answer to a division problem. So my quotient was 3, and my remainder was 1. So now we're going to check our work. We're going to take our quotient and multiply that by our divisor, which was 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And then we're going to add our remainder, which gives us a total of 7. So if our whole, which is 7, matches our answer, then that means that our answer is correct. Let's try another one. So this time we have 10s and 1s. So I'm going to begin by showing 27 on my place value chart. So that would be 2 10s and 7 1s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm still dividing by 2, so I'm going to draw one line to separate my place value disc from my two groups. Now I have two groups, group 1, group 2. So I'm going to begin by distributing my 10s. So I'm going to put 1 10 here and 1 10 here. I have none left over. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show what I just did. I took 2 10s and I divided them by 2. How much was in each group? 1. So I'm going to put a 1 up here in the quotient. I distributed 1 2 times, so I used all 2 of my 2's. So when I subtract, I'm going to get an answer of 0, which means I had no 10s left over. So now I'm ready to divide the 7 ones. I'm going to go ahead and bring down the 7. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to distribute the 1s. Here's a 1. Here's a 1. I'm going to just keep going until I either have equal groups or I have some left over. So when I get right here, I get to the same point that I was just a minute ago in problem number 1. I have this 1 left over, so I can't distribute it because I'll have unequal groups. So when I took my 7 1s and I divided it into two groups, how much was in each group? Again, I had 3. So 3 goes in the quotient. I put 3 1s 2 times. So 3 times 2 is 6. So I'm going to subtract my 6 1s, and I'm left with 1. This means that I have a remainder of 1. So this time, my quotient is 13, and I have a remainder of 1. So now I'm going to check my work again. I'm going to take my quotient, which was 13, and I'm going to multiply that by my divisor. I was dividing by 2, so this time I'm going to multiply by 2. So 13 times 2 gives me 6 1s and 2 10s, which is 26. I'm going to add my remainder, which gives me 27. So if my answer here matches my whole up here, then that means that my answer is correct. All right, let's take a look at number 3. So this time, we're going to take 8 ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're going to divide it into 3 groups. So let's go ahead and divide this into 3 parts. So I always like to go back and count to make sure I have 3 groups. 1, 2, 3. Now I'd like for you to distribute these 8 ones into 3 groups. Remember, your groups have to be equal. If you can't put 1 in every group, then you have to stop. That's your remainder. And then let's come back and take the next step together. Okay, so when I got ready to distribute my ones, I went ahead and ended up with 2 in each group, and I had 2 left over. So now I'm going to show that in my long division. I took 8 ones and I put them into 3 groups. How many were in each group? Well, there were 2 in each group, so my quotient would be 2. I used 2 3 times, 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to subtract 6, and what I have left is 2. And that shows that I had a remainder of 2. So my answer is 2, remainder 2. So I have a quotient of 2 and a remainder of 2. So I'm going to take my quotient, which is 2. I was dividing by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3 to check my work, and that gives me 6. Now I'm going to add my remainder, and that gives me 8. So my answer here equals my whole here, so that means that my work is correct. All right, let's take a look at number 4. So again, we're going to do 3 tens, 8 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, we're going to divide into 3 groups. So I'm going to draw one line to separate it from my groups, and then I'm going to draw 2 more lines to make 3 groups. And I'm going to go back and count to make sure I do have 3 groups. So I have 1, 2, 3. So it's pretty easy to distribute these tens. You can tell right off the bat that you're going to end up with 1 10 in each group with none left over. So let's come over here and show what we just did. We took 3 tens, which is right here. We divided it by 3. How many was in each group? 1. So we're going to put a 1 in the tens place in our quotient. We used 1 3 times, so we're going to subtract 3, and then we're left with 0. The 0 here means we had no tens left over. Now we're going to go ahead and bring down the 8 ones, and we're going to divide the 8 ones. I'm going to pause the video, and I want you to go ahead and distribute the 8 ones just like you did in problem 3. And if you think you can go ahead and finish this division problem, do that too. Okay, so when I distributed my ones, it ended up just like in problem 3. I had 2 in each group with 2 left over. So I took 8 ones and I divided them by 3. I had 2 ones in each group. And then I used 2 ones 3 times, and 2 times 3 equals 6. So when I subtract 6, I'm left with 2 to show that I had 2 ones as a remainder. So my answer is 12, remainder 2. All right, so now I'm going to check my work. My quotient was 12. My remainder was 2. So I have a quotient of 12. I was dividing by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3, which gives me 2 times 3 is 6. 1 10 times 3 is 3 tens. I'm going to add my remainder of 2, and that gives me 38. So my answer here is 38, and when I look back up here, my whole was 38, so that means that my work is correct. All right, let's take a look at number 5, okay? So we have 6, and we're going to divide it by 4. I think that you could probably do a lot of this one all by yourself. I'd like for you to try to do as much of this by yourself as you can. If you get stuck, press play and I'll walk you through it. But I want you to try to do as much of it by yourself as you can. Okay, so I began by showing 6 ones in my place value chart, and then I divided it into 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. I ended up with 1 in each group, but then I had 2 left over, so I couldn't distribute any more. So in my long division, I showed that I had 6 ones. I put them into 4 groups, and I had 1 in each group. I used 1 4 times, so that left me with 2 left over. So I had a remainder of 2. So my quotient is 1. My remainder is 2. And then when I checked my work, I took my quotient of 1, multiplied it times my divisor of 4, and I got 4. I added 2. That gave me 6. All right, let's try number 6. All right, so this time we're going to do 86 divided by 4. So we're going to go ahead and put our 8 tens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 6 ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to put this into 4 groups. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this into 4 parts. It's always important that you go back and count your parts, because if you put too many parts, your answer is going to be wrong. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to go ahead and divide these tens. Sometimes I like to do 2 at a time because I already know that 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to work out where I'm going to have exactly 2. So I went ahead and just did 2 at a time this time. So you can see that I had a remainder of 0. So now when I come over to my long division, I just took 8 tens and divided it by 4. So how much was in each group? 2, right? And I did 2 4 times. So I've got 2 times 4, which is 8. I have an answer of 0 because I had no tens left over. Now I'm ready to divide the 6 ones. I'd like for you to go ahead and divide the 6 ones and try to finish the rest of this problem by yourself. Okay, so hopefully you tried to distribute the 4 ones all by yourself, or 6 ones. When I did that, I ended up with 1 in each group, and I had 2 left over. So then I went to my long division problem, and I showed where I took my 6 ones and divided them by 4. I had 1 1 in each group, and 1 times 4 was 4. So when I took away the 4 that I distributed, I had 2 left over. That's because I had a remainder of 2. So my answer would be 21, remainder 2. 21, remainder 2. So my answer, or my quotient, is 21. I was dividing by 4, so I'm going to multiply by 4. That gives me 84. And then I'm going to add my remainder of 2. That gives me 86. So my answer is 86. When I look up here, my total was 86. So that means that my work is correct. All right, so today we talked about how you could divide using place value disk and how you could relate that to long division. This is just the beginning. I think this is really fun. It's one of my favorite strategies.